We didn't even talk about the fact that we're coordinated once again, but I always wear black and white. So there you go.
Well, usually it's like you're in the black and then I'm in the cream, salt and pepper, yo.
Okay. Eva, welcome. Episode 10.
10.
Did I ever tell you my favorite number is 10?
No. Did I ever tell you my favorite number is 4?
I think we did talk about that in the birthday book. I also like 5 and 10.
Ah, interesting.
So what a great milestone, don't you think? 10 episodes. We started Pithy Musings in January of this year.
Yep.
And we record a episode once per month. So we got one more to go. I think we're off by one if we're finished in December. That's only 11. Okay.
We took a break.
We did have a little bit of summer hiatus.
Yeah.
So today we are talking, I think, about a pretty interesting topic, really around self-image, body image, everything that's encapsulated around that. One might say, if you're a new viewer and watcher, well, what does that have to do with work? Well, Pithy Musings is really bigger than about professional. We look at the personal and the professional side of being human. Mm-hmm. With that, maybe we should do some introductions before we dive into the content at hand. So I'll go first. My name is Carolyn Berglund. I am principal of an organization by the name of Talk Talk. I'm in the beautiful mountains of Calgary, Alberta. You always say Pacific Northwest. I'm in Calgary, Alberta. Banff is 45 minutes from my door. Talk Talk specializes in leadership, a lot of team building stuff, executive coaching, and really ramping up an interesting section of our organization around public speaking. Eva, who are you?
Grazie. My name is Eva Van Krugel. I almost said I'm with Pithy Musings, one right here. I am also with Pithy Musings, and I'm with Fervor Leadership Coaching Consulting. And I'm proud to say there's so many places that Carolyn and I both work and practice, always in collaboration with one another, never in competition with one another, proof that we can lean on one another in such rich and beautiful ways that impact the world. Sometimes I used to think we have to be differentiated and own our space, and yet the more of us that are doing this kind of work in the world, I believe all the better. And have you noticed over the past couple of years, there are so many interesting conversations coming out of the woodwork on what it is to be human and put the funk back into being human in the workplace? A whole other level of conversations happening, and it's a pretty interesting time.
So for our viewers and watchers, when we say we put the funk back into being human, what do we mean?
Well, we mean disco balls. And we love us some disco and some funk. There's a Spotify playlist if anybody's keen. Look up Pithy Musings, you'll find it there. A fun little collection. But putting the funk back into being human is part of what Pithy Musings is about. For those of you who are loyal, thank you for being here. For those of you who are new, it really is around, what Pithy Musings does is we bridge what's happening in the world in being in the human condition, and putting the funk back in it is to explore sometimes contrarian, real, raw, unconventional, even taboo topics that we think need to be talked about, and put them on the table with the hopes that maybe our listeners and viewers are walking away with nuggets of truth that help empower them in the world to just experience a more positive existence. Anything you'd add?
Yeah, I would say Pithy Musings is also, you're going to notice no corporate speak. I often like to say that. Apparently, my internet connection is unstable. We'll see how that goes. I just got the pop up.
Oh, great. Well, we're learning to navigate complexity and uncertainty, aren't we?
That's right. So no corporate speak. I always say, if I say the word synergy, please charge me whatever that, $100, whatever it is. And again, I echo, and I think I heard from a couple of our watchers based on our last episode around why friendship makes us better human beings. And one of our watchers highlighted the fact that she really loves the fact that we highlight that we're not in competition, mm-hmm. although we have our own distinct businesses that actually are very similar in some ways. I think you're a really great executive coach. That's not predominant part of my business, but we do have graying lines in terms of what we do. And we really aren't in competition. In fact, we were just having a conversation in advance of recording, is that really is no intellectual property here. I'm happy to share. You're happy to share. It is really with the intent of helping one another. And helping others in observing us, that we don't have to compete. We can actually, walk through this world hand in hand and not, try to get somebody else. There's abundance for all. That's really my mantra in the universe. Anyway, so we're talking about self-image today, and where this topic came from, as all of our topics come from, is us just musing over tea, coffee. What do you got in that mug today, by the way? You got the Salt Spring coffee?
I know, you know what? Had my dose of the Salt Spring coffee. Water. I'm really working on my hydration.
Okay.
I'm working on having like 8 liters of water a day.
Yep.
I had no idea, being so health conscious, how little water I was having per day. So drink your water, people.
There it is. By the way, coveted mug.
That's right.
If you want one, we'll explain how to get one at the end. So self-image is the topic today. And this is, I saw a definition that I thought was a good one. So let me read it to you. Self-image is the personal view or mental picture that we have of ourselves. Mm-hmm. Self-image is an internal dictionary that describes the characteristics of self, including such things as intelligent, beautiful, ugly, talented, selfish, and kind. So this is a big topic. I mean, we've talked about, what do we call it? Impression management, not impression management, but in one of our last episodes, my brain is having a mental fart.
I know, it's okay.
So when we talk about self-image, it's interesting. I'll dig into something here.
Here we go.
I did pull out something.
Yeah.
Now, I don't claim to be a great writer. So let me just say this at the fore. I have dabbled in creative writing. I have dabbled in writing other doctrines about 30 years ago. Maybe 25. I took a creative writing class, and that particular little story got published. No, I didn't make any money. It was like, whatever. And I pulled it out last night because I thought it might be an interesting way to start. Again, I am not Leo Tolstoy. I am not Harper Lee. I am not any of those things. I just play around. But I'd love to get your perspective on this. This is the opening paragraph to this short story. We are a peculiar and narcissistic family. In one of my earliest memories, I sat in the waiting room of the doctor's office with my mom and grandma. Not any ordinary doctor's office decorated with pictures and sculptures of the inner workings of hearts, lungs, and other functional organs. This plastic surgeon's office that I came to know by memory like an adult recalling the particulars of their childhood home had videos of silicone breast implant surgery on a wide Sony screen, the before and after photos of Botox injections plastered on the wall, and a glittery gold plaque on the receptionist's desk that has never escaped my brain. You can never be too skinny nor too rich. What does that say about me?
Well, I love that you just shared that, because I think that really does set the tone for the conversation we want to have and some of the ideas that we have. Part of why the whole self-image and body image topic came up for us, what I recall, was that in being in the world as humans, whatever gender identity anyone associates with or connects with, but being in the world, there is this considerable resistance to accepting ourselves just as we are.
Yeah.
We look in the mirror for what's wrong instead of looking in the mirror with love and with acceptance. There's this constant resistance. And one of the things I celebrate that I really, and why is that? We know there's all these influence of social media, and it's just getting harder and harder and harder. There's a part of me that looks back at being a teenager, and I am dating myself and aging myself. And I'm going to say that I'm okay with that and that I'm proud of that, because I'm lucky to have lived all these years.
Yeah.
But I look back as a teenager, I didn't have access to social media. And there's a part of me that I have a bit of a love-dislike relationship with social media, because it can serve, it does serve. We can pontificate about that some other time. But back then, I didn't have to compare myself to hundreds and hundreds of thousands of faces and bodies. What I did have is magazine covers.
I was just going to say magazines, TV ads, diet pill ads. We were constantly in the 80s, 90s doing comparing, and I just turned 50. So I celebrate that as well. In fact, I don't feel bad about it at all. I'm not only okay with it, I'm really happy in the skin that I'm in at the moment. And so let's not gloss over ages ever, but we had those pressures. They just looked a little bit different. So
yeah, we did. And so there's been these messages as we've grown up over the years, over the decades, even in families, in schools, at work, on how we look. Is it enough? There's always better.
Well, and I think we're also shaped by our home, our parents, our siblings, our society, our friends, our schools. I mean, for me to write, "You can never be too skinny nor too rich" comes from a place somewhere within my childhood, right? I think, and I don't think my mom would care me saying this. I mean, she very much put an emphasis on the way she looked throughout her life. And I think it was important to her. So I saw that, and that became a part of, whether consciously or subconsciously, how I saw myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same, for sure. And I would say this with my mother sitting in this conversation with us. Mm-hmm. There were, over the years, there's been, and she, like many other people, where the back fat, can't wear that sweater because the back fat will show.
Sure.
Or look at me in my bird legs. And, when she had these beautiful legs, there was constant self-deprecation and body focus. And so then growing up around that, and also, bless her, because then over the years, she'd always say, "Oh, you look so beautiful," or "Oh, that looks really beautiful on you." Looks. My grandmother also said, never leave, my maternal grandmother, Shirley, never, ever leave the house without your lipstick on.
Again, doesn't that speak volumes about Shirley? I don't, present, always be presentable. Mm-hmm.
There's little experiments, and I don't know if there's little experiments I'm running. And I'd love to hear some of the experiments that you're running too. Around, I'm going to challenge myself to go on that hike or to go to the grocery store and not do a damn thing. Maybe put a little toque on. I'm going out the door. That would be unheard of in prior years, but I'm going to sit with the discomfort, and I'm not going to do myself up. Yeah. I'm going out the door. And so I've done it a couple of times, knowing we were going to talk about this and feeling accountable to practice what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got out the door way faster.
Right.
And I was just like, this is me. And if I run into anyone I know and I don't have my lashes on, well, this is me. This is me underneath it.
It's interesting because I just mentioned that I just turned 50 and I got one card 6 times over. So a bunch of people sent me different cards and I got one particular card 6 times over. We'll just show it to you and I'll read it to you. How to turn 50. Look back and marvel at how far you've come. Act old enough to know better, but young enough not to care. Make a list of 50 things you're thankful for. Write 2 notes, one to your 20-year-old self and another to your 60-year-old self. This one that I pulled is from a very good friend of mine, Bev, who says, you probably already done this stuff, which she knows me. But I thought the letter to yourself was an interesting exercise. So of course I did 50 to 50. I think I've talked about that before. So I did do that exercise, write a letter to your 20-year-old self. And it started off with, don't get hung up on your body, focus on your brain. And I go on in that letter. And the second letter to your 60-year-old self starts, I sat there, I'm like, what am I going to say to my 60-year-old self? It starts the same way. Don't get hung up on your body, focus on your brain.
Yeah. Yeah, that's her. It's total. I love that. And it's reminding me of something my mother also said to me once, where she said at the time, and it is a bit more, there's a gender slant to it. And she said, a woman can be sexy in a turtleneck.
Oh, yeah.
She said, yeah. You do whatever it takes to make sure the world looks at you here and respects who you are and what you bring to the table. And you do that through knowledge. You do that through learning. So I did have that rumbling away. It's funny, I'm wearing a mock turtle today.
I had one on earlier. It's so weird. I had a white version of that on and then I got makeup on it. And so I had to change it.
Oh,
I think it's almost is it Club Monaco? I think I've got the same one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The white one.
I have a cream one and a black one. But I guess part of what we're also noticing was that, you know, there is also something that's happening for all decades, whether it's I don't have children. I'm an auntie times many, blood related and not. I'm hearing friends who are parents talk about their children and the body image stuff. I'm really hearing about it, about the girls.
Yeah.
And a food awareness and intake awareness and you know, the right eyebrows, the right makeup. They've got fridges for their makeup. There's a whole scene happening there. And through to, you know, the time I told you about how I went to go, you know, there's a dermatology appointment and I was looking at this, that, and the other. And then I got some sort of $10,000 estimate and I'm like, what am I doing? But the women working reception were maybe mid-20s and packed full of injections and packed full of work.
The lip injections are just insane right now.
Totally. Through to, you know, we're seeing significant butt lifts. We're seeing, but then, so all of that is happening. And then I saw some staggering stats. I don't remember the numbers. That's not important. The point is I saw some staggering, like, proportion of people who are doing really invasive, very painful life and body altering things to make them be something that they're not cosmetically to be on trend.
You know what's different between I saw just a clear delineation of our childhood, and if you were an up 12 or 13 or a teenager now and in the social media era, is they have filters now. So what you're looking at in an Instagram post, a Facebook post, a tweet, a TikTok, a whatever, likely isn't a regular photograph.
No.
So we are comparing and contrasting next to this ideal that actually doesn't exist.
Correct.
So And, I'm not going to pass any judgment around the Kardashians. I don't watch the show, but I have, seen in social media, Kim and whoever. There's one of the Kardashians that actually doesn't look anything like what she looked like 10 years ago. Khloe, I'm not sure what
it's one of the youngest daughters. Is it Kai?
Oh, I think all of them are kind of morphing into looking like a very similar human being. Yeah. As opposed to honoring and going, I'm unique, I'm different. But it's almost like there's this stereotype of what one should look like now. Mm-hmm. And if you have a more immature brain, and I don't say that negatively, but if you're in your teens and early 20s and have, you've got some life experience to land on, mm-hmm. then when you go to the Botox shop and you see that 20-year-old who's morphing into that look, what does that say about the brain development stuff? Yeah. Is our self-worth all about the way our face and our body looks? And, mm-hmm. and that ideal self mm-hmm. doesn't actually really exist. Mm-hmm. And people that don't even have money mm-hmm. are spending money mm-hmm. on lip injections where they should be spending it on a book. Sorry.
Well, and so this is the thing that's really hard, because a part of me, I really don't want to have judgment. If you need to do something, like, let's say,
agreed.
And who the hell am I?
Yeah.
At the same time, like, and if you need something that, like, let's just say you've been through something tragic and you want to feel better about yourself. That is a whole other level. How, or there's a medical challenge, a health challenge, but there is some kind of psychological ill that is happening because we are striving for something that we are not throughout the decades, throughout the years, and we are not kind to ourselves and we are not kind to each other.
Yeah.
And I believe that we need to call bullshit on that. And there needs to be strengthened acceptance in who we are, how we're made, why are laugh lines something to be removed.
Right.
And or like whatever.
I'm going to tell you a story. I can't believe I'm going to tell a story. I've had Botox over the years. Yeah. So again, no judgment. When we're talking about this, I've done some of this.
Well, we're in it. We're trying to navigate through it.
Yeah. So I'd say about a year ago, and I haven't had it since, I had some Botox and I think I got some kind of allergic reaction. So I got some here and my eyelids puffed up as though I had been crying for 3 weeks straight. Kind of the opposite of the aesthetic in which I was going for. So I'm like putting on extra makeup, trying to like create some eyelids, trying to do something. But it was, I'm so grateful for that experience because it actually jarred me for a second and said, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? For what? Mm-hmm. And so and again, no judgment. It's really, you do fillers and all that. We're taking it more to the extreme where we're going, is it now impacting yourself professionally and personally?
Because it does. And
it does.
We're seeing it. There's a little, I think we're seeing it in ageism. Why? The number of, like, I think of some mentors that I have or family that I have, that are still like maybe family in their 70s, they're in the arts, and they have been completely dissed. They've been completely dissed in the arts communities in favor of younger versions. They've literally watched it. They've been watching it happen for years. Why is that? I mean, there's a whole exploration of that, but I think it's impacting the ageism that some really experience. I'm hearing some people who I'm coaching some of them who are maybe late 40s into their 50s, and they're like, I'm scared because I now have gray hair. Men,
Yeah.
I'm scared that I'm like, I don't look the part anymore. But what do
Yeah.
I do? Should I dye my hair? And I'm trying to be unbiased. Part of my job is to be unbiased. And it kind of breaks my heart. Why are we not accepting and embracing someone who's the best they've ever been, who's a chronic learner, so determined, really ambitious, has a hell of a CV? Why are they having a hard time? And I think that there's a body image acceptance thing that we're imposing on other people that's not letting them in the door.
Well, so I just thought of something. So not all cultures do that, right? Some cultures embrace age as equaling wisdom, and isn't that beautiful?
Beautiful.
And we think about more developed countries versus less developed countries. I try not to watch too much of the news these days, but I do try to keep up on what's going on in the world. And it broke my heart because Afghanistan is obviously going through mass economic challenges right now. And they were showing the severity of the poverty there. And families that are, selling their daughters, which is not my understanding, an untraditional practice for marriage, but waiting till the appropriate time. There are countries that do that, and selling might be the inappropriate word, but arranged marriages. But arranging marriages with daughters that are prepubescent, like 7 and 8, so that they can get money. And what it made me think of as I'm thinking about self-image and body image is that is so low on the freaking totem pole over there in terms of, should I get my lips done or not my lips done? And if we all lived in a world that was a little bit more kind, we'd ship off some money over there instead of injecting it in our goddamn faces. Like, it makes me think about the more global reality that we live in. Why are we so privileged that we have to think about these trivialities, such as what we look like?
And this is a bit in judgment. It's a bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like, I feel a bit embarrassed and ashamed of the culture, the society, that like it actually gets me going, well, wait a second, what role do each of us play?
Yeah. Earlier
in the conversation, I talked about water and how one of my challenges is drinking more water. Well, I have access to taps throughout the house that turn on flushable toilets.
Yeah.
That's a form of, so I absolutely hear you. And I think
this is the dichotomy. It keeps me up at night, right? It's like, it's removing yourself for a second from your current reality of privilege and starting to look at the world from a human perspective and not just my four walls. Sorry, I cut you off. No,
it was fine. I mean, my stepmother refers to it as my wicked stepmother. Rogers. She, these may not be her exact words, but the one exact word for sure is narcissism. Yep. There's a whole other level of overdoing it to the extent of indulgence in exaggerated narcissism and getting too carried away with it. So say you and I both go get our hair done. We might not go get our manicures.
Yeah.
That's playing a role in it to some degree. We want to look good and feel good.
Yep.
So we are actively playing roles in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I acknowledge that. What I'm really concerned about is the lack of self-acceptance, hustling for something that we're not, an ideal that doesn't exist. And it's negatively impacting, it's like it's perpetuating how we feel, perceived lack of opportunity, how we look at each other and judge one another or accept one another based on how we look. There's some interesting statistics, there's a research study that I found absolutely some fascinating notes out of. And it was from Horizon Media, from Globe Newswire, and it was in 2020. Check this out. Those people with positive body confidence are 75% more likely to say they feel extremely successful in career, and are twice as likely to be very happy with where they've progressed and what they've achieved. On negative body confidence, on the opposite, 70% are more likely to believe that a lack of self-confidence caused, like a body confidence, caused missed career opportunities. More than 40% more inclined to blame themselves for lack of advancement. 1.5 times more likely to be angry with themselves for not doing what they need to change how they feel. And it goes on and on and on. So do you have the body of a triathlete? Are you all tucked in and nice and tight? Are you wearing the right outfits? Were you born the right way? And there's also a significant gender difference. In this study, men are 150% more likely to be extremely comfortable with their bodies than are women.
I bet that might be changing, though, in this social media. Yeah, I agree that there might be an imbalance, but my guess is that that gap is narrowing, as social media is equally hard on men as it is to women. But those are fascinating stats, that how one views oneself can have such an impact in terms of success. So I think it's important to delineate between three different parts to what we're talking about. The first of which is I call ideal self. So the person you want to be.
Yeah.
Second is self-image, is how you see yourself, including attributes like physical characteristics, personality traits, social roles. I'm beautiful, I'm smart, I'm whatever. And then self-esteem is how much you like, accept, or value yourself, which can be impacted by a number of factors, including how others see you, how you think you compare to others, and how your role in society. This idea of ideal self, the person you want to be, I think is where we get into trouble.
I agree. And one thing that I find really refreshing and I celebrate is I'm seeing more ads on, say, social media, that there's some retail brands, for example, that the models are all shapes and sizes, very cultures, very gender identities. Mm-hmm. I think that's wicked. I am so excited and happy to see that. I even saw, I don't know if you've seen it as well. I don't remember the brand, but there are like tights, nylons, funky tights, whatever you wear under, whatever you're going to wear. And they're wearing them. I mean, for years, we've laughed about what we look like in a pair of tights or nylons and pretty much nothing else. And it's fodder for some humor. At the same time, we're now seeing models like wearing them. We're seeing different shapes and sizes. Again, lots of cultural diversity. And we're seeing men who are also wearing the tights, who may identify as men or transgender or as female, whatever. And at first I was like, well, what's this in my feed? Because I'm not used to seeing that.
Right.
And I then was like, whoa, sister, check yourself. This is amazing.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of increased acceptance for who we are and our differences.
Well, and shattering these stupid biases of what beauty is. You know, I don't know if you saw on Sunday, Adele's concert. I'm not a huge fan of Adele.
Yeah, I've seen some.
And she was talking to Oprah in between. And I guess in the last 2 years, she was getting divorced and she lost 100 pounds. And she was talking about that some of her fans have felt really abandoned by her weight loss. And she said something that I thought was quite interesting. Yeah. So two things. One was she started exercising, eating well, because she was having terrifying anxiety attacks. It wasn't necessarily to strive for this, ideal image. It was for health. I have to do this in order to survive this very difficult part. She said, but it's not my job to validate how people feel about their bodies. I feel bad that it's made anyone feel horrible about themselves, but that's not my job. I'm just trying to sort my own life out, and I can't add another worry. And it reminded me when I was going through a divorce many years ago, and I was maybe in the belly of it or whatever, I was giving a talk. And I finished the talk. There was a couple hundred people in the audience. And, you know, oftentimes you talk to people in the audience if you've done your job okay. And someone said, you know, and she meant this as a compliment. She said, love the talk, but as I was watching you, there wasn't an ounce of fat on your body. And she meant it as a compliment, but what she didn't know is that when I get very stressed and worried and anxious, I really struggle to eat. So when you see a thin body, it was not a healthy body. But there is this notion out there that thin equals good. You got your shit together. You're not lazy. You're not whatever. Like, you got your shit together because thin equals good.
What you're sharing, yes. And what you're also sharing is reminding me of a practice, and maybe this resonates for some listeners, of instead of, like, I'm big on being active.
Yeah.
In earlier years, I do have to question, was I active for the right reasons?
Yes.
And I don't know that I was. Yes. I knew that being active was healthy and preventative and all of that stuff. My view of being active today has really changed. I'm active and love my nature time, my hikes, my cycles, my little 10-pounders. I'm active because it makes me okay, and okay, more than okay.
Yeah.
So it brings me sense of well-being. And this year I've stopped. I'm such a hyperachiever and so motivated in so much that I do. This year, I've really focused on, for maybe the first time in my life, truly deeply. I could say I've been working on it for years, but this year's different. I've started to I don't care about the calories I'm burning, or I'm more focused on being present with the gift that my body brings me to be able to walk and climb rocks like that.
Yeah.
As I get closer to 50, I get to do that. I'm more focused on being present with the environment. And I'm not joking. I mean, I literally hugged a tree yesterday. And I was
not surprised me.
Oh my God. Like, I literally hugged it, and the moss and the feeling of the moss and the smell. And I didn't look ahead. I didn't look back. I didn't think about what I ate or who cares?
Yeah.
I immersed in being fully present. So, as my dad would call, he's like, why do you and Jack go on these hikes and you're just giving her through the forest? How about a saunter? And there's wisdom in that.
Yeah.
How about a saunter? We don't have to hyperachieve the hike, hyperachieve. And that has been one of the greatest gifts I've given myself on body image, body acceptance, body love.
I love that. And it sounds super cheesy to say, but it's really true. Your body is a gift. And we kind of take it, I'll speak for myself, we take it for granted until we can't anymore. Right? I was talking to my mom the other day, and she was like, you know, I'm healthy, I'm well. And isn't that really what it's all about, particularly as you're getting a bit older? I started laughing, though, as you were talking about your younger self, because I'd like to create an image for you. At 19, I think, or 20, 21, somewhere in there, I was an aerobics instructor. So circa 1991, 92. So that meant the hot pink leotard and that little Jane Fonda, like leotard
Oh yeah.
undergarment you'd put over top,
Oh,
and the leg warmers and the matching. God, I wish I kept some of that stuff, because man, did I have a lot of those outfits. But the point is, it was about the look. It was about burning calories. It was about, it wasn't about wellness. Absolutely not. It was about losing weight, getting to the ideal of what I saw in a magazine. It wasn't about anything more than that, if I'm really candid. So I identify with you hugging the tree, because my backyard doesn't look as beautiful as yours, where you've got really the mountains right there. But I did
in the Pacific Northwest.
In the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
But I did go for a walk. I've been going for walks, even though it's super cold, for nothing else than just to oxygenate, whatever that word is, get some oxygen in the body, and to feel the breeze, and to get moving, and in the pandemic, we're sitting down all the time. A normal facilitation day for me is 13,000 steps. Well, I took off that Fitbit because it was depressing, right? And so I think it's a great tip for our watchers and listeners about getting back into nature and really seeing our bodies as bigger than looking a certain way.
Well, I kind of, because where does it begin? Where does increased acceptance begin to slow, maybe even stop, intercept the tidal wave of resistance to acceptance?
Yeah.
And it does, the conversation we've had before and today does get me going, what's my role in this? Yes. To model as an auntie times many to the community in which I'm connected with. What's my role in it to make it better? And I really think it primarily starts with self.
Yep.
And extending the same love we have for self with others. And there's certain things like, I choose no longer to be around energy where I feel my person is judged, including my look. So if I'm with others who are constantly self-deprecating, then I have a hard time being around that energy. If it's a beloved close friend, I'm going to call them on it, and I want to be called on it too. And I want to say, let's support each other in being accountable to having more acceptance and self-love. We have to stop the self-deprecation and switch it around.
I talk about turning 50. Well, those around me are also turning 50. And so when the world opened up, we're actually going to parties now. And every single party that I've gone to in the last, let's call it 6 months, I kid you not, Eva, every single party, because I haven't obviously seen a lot of these people in a long, somebody, male or female, said, "Don't mind me, I've just put on the COVID-19.
Ooh, see, yeah.
Right. And my response is, can we be kind to ourselves? We are living through a goddamn pandemic. Yeah. And there's a lot of stress and anxiousness that are attached to that.
Yeah.
But people are feeling obligated to apologize for what? For
being human. But so here, you're raising a really important point. In the pandemic, the impact of the pandemic, I saw a really interesting piece from psychologist Tracy Tilka. She says we've had loss of social support, loss of self-care rituals as we knew them, loss of access to habitual practices like fitness classes or public spaces. The pandemic stress piece has caused countless humans to binge eat and emotional eat. There is an overall preoccupation with food, anxiety about weight and body shape.
Yeah.
And as I heard someone speak recently, Dr. Timothy Clark, who does a beautiful body of work on psychological safety, a place you and I are madly interested in, he says, we won't return to normal. we are forever changed because of the pandemic. And so there's a part of me that wants, on this whole body image, self-image piece, if we are forever changed, how do we turn that into a new gift and opportunity to embrace the gifts that surround, be present with what is versus what isn't, including when we look in the mirror and when we look at each other?
Yeah.
And I'm really pleased that you brought out the delineation of ideal self, self-image, and self-esteem. Self-esteem, we did an episode on the imposter experience, and we talk about some things that still stand out that I learned from, I believe we both learned from. So there's more in that. Where we're really going here is the ideal self, the hustle for the ideal self. And what does it take to embrace today what is versus what isn't? So, in wrapping it up, we've talked about a few ideas we have. Are there any other thoughts you want to leave our people with?
Well, two, shout out to an individual by the name of Kelly Jane Drinkwater. And she does a TED Talk that is brilliant. And I think it's called Enough with the Fear of Fat. And I think one of the things we can do is not only self-reflect in terms of how we come up with our own ideal self and how we look at ourselves, but really challenge how we look at others. So she says, I'm here today to talk about a very powerful little word, one that we will do almost anything to avoid becoming billion-dollar industries, thrive because of the fear of it. Those of us who undeniably are left to navigate a relentless storm surrounding it. I'm not sure if any of you have noticed, but I'm fat. Not the lowercase muttered behind my back kind of, or seemingly harmlessly chubby or cuddly. I'm not even the sophisticated, voluptuous, or curvaceous kind. She rocked my world in watching that. I watched it 3 times. I think we need to just blow up these definitions of what we're looking at and how we look at ourselves. So my tip, I think, is a long-winded way of saying, extend the kindness to yourself that you would extend to others. Just come on. Life is so much more than this package that we're in. There's a soul in there. There's a brain in there. There's emotions in there. And the packaging really doesn't matter.
No, I'm in full agreement with you. And as we will continue to be in this onslaught of what beauty is or isn't, practices, I think that we can use, in addition to some of the ideas that we've already shared, literally looking in the mirror. And the moment we go, oh, that deeper pore, oh, that unwanted hair, oh, my thinner eyebrows. Instead, intercept it. Just stop.
Yeah, be aware.
What do you love? What do you love about what you're seeing? There it is. Those dimples are still there.
Yeah.
You got this. I'm not joking. And I'm happy. Go ahead. Anybody listening, judge the practice. Go try the practice. Yeah. And it's basically a daily affirmation. And also something I think is important is we think we have to run triathlons to have that body. We don't. What if we honor what the body feels like doing, especially as we do change over time? If the body is nurtured and the energy goes up through yoga, do it. If things get a little softer, what's wrong with that? Do what the body gives you energy to do and what the body is made for. We're all made different and we all need different things. And I think part of the reason why this topic felt important for us is because we need to intercept. We believe we need to intercept the chaos because we're missing out on life. We're missing out on being present and with each other. So
And
I know
believe
we
you
could
me, I know where I'm going on here, and those that might be going through menopause, it's not a bad word, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's like puberty. You don't really have full control of what's going on with the evolution. And that's what your body is supposed to do. Shut down, baby making and go into older years. It's perfectly natural for the body to shift and change.
And we
It's okay.
literally, yeah, like we could literally, we can accept or we can change or convert to an alternative possibility. So in every move, what do you choose to accept and what can you truly change, and what's the cost of changing it, both short-term and long-term? I choose higher return on life and being here now in acceptance and in well-being.
Yeah.
What do you choose?
I will always choose kindness to myself and to others. It really is my barometer for everything.
Mm-hmm. So with that, I'm pretty sure we could go on about this for a long time. I really want to thank people who, at the closeout of our year, really want to thank people who have been so loyal. I hear some of you, shout out to some of you who have shared that they go on their hikes and they turn this on to listen. So I really want to thank our community near and far who stand by Pithy Musings and are so supportive. Please keep talking to us, share your ideas, share Pithy Musings, tag us on LinkedIn or on Instagram. We want to grow the conversation and we want to grow the topics that we put on the table. And we want it to get pithier into 2022, including bringing in guests. We've got our first one booked and we can't wait to share more about that. So stay tuned for episode 11 in 2022. Subscribe to Pithy Musings on the YouTube channel as well. And
click the button.
If you have feedback or questions, you can.
I lost Eva.
Energy in our closeout here. There it is. Okay, you came back. So with that,
stay pithy
and keep
musing. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Eva.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks, everyone.